All right, folks, we'll go ahead and get started. So we do have quorum and it is 6:30 p.m. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. If we can start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk Bingo, if you'll take roll call for us, please.
Councilmember Williams. Reed. Jackson.
Here.
Lawler. Davis.
Here.
French.
Here.
And Mayor Schneider.
Here. So our study session this evening is to go over and discuss items that we will be asked to approve during our regular meeting. The first is going to be the approval of $18,950 to Concord Excavating for our North Eaton repairs. City Manager Schneider, do you want to walk us through that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So included in your packet is an estimate or quote from Concord Excavating. Council, if you can recall, at the beginning of the summer, we did have that water main break along Eaton Street. And that is a state trunk line, so it does require a thicker level layer of concrete. So it is a higher quote for the patch work along that area of roadway, but we did receive 3 quotes and we're bringing you the lowest of those, which is Concord Excavating. I did authorize this an emergency expenditure last week so that they could get started, just given the good weather, and I believe they're wrapping up that project this week. Recommending approval.
Do we have any questions for City Manager Slater on this item? Do we get any assistance in the cost of this since this is the trunk line?
Since I'm not sure, since it was due to our infrastructure needing to be replaced, but I can double check with MDOT.
All right, next, we are gonna approve our second reading of ordinance 2023-07. Is for the tax exemption for the Kennedy Green development. Any questions or comments on this item before regular council? All right. Next, we will be discussing the correspondence between, I should say, from Garen, Luco, and Miller for the EDC investigation. I don't think we have to make any decision on this, right? Attorney Hartness, it's just a discussion.
As far as I know, it's just a cut.
Yep. We'll also be discussing our 2023 strategic goals. And then finally, we're going to be asked to approve of the block party fee. So that information is also in your packets. So I don't know if Attorney Hartnett or City Manager Snyder wants to give us info on how we came to that fee that's in the packet.
I can, and I believe if Chief Kip is in the back, if he can come forward as well. So we did include the kind of application that goes along with the ordinance. When talking internally, right now we have proposed $100 fee. When talking with Chief Kip, we discussed doing a possible total, it'll be $300. However, if you hold your event, no issues, then $250 would be returned back to you. So you essentially would just be paying a $50 fee, and there would be a $250 deposit in case if any barricades were damaged, if public safety needed to respond, or if it's city, if we needed to respond. We threw that option out there. However, to issue the refund, I think we would need to come up with like a formal process on how do we confirm that there were no issues, no damage or anything like that. And then someone would need to sign off to authorize the reimbursement of that deposit. So I did just want to put that out there that we did discuss that option as well. However, we did not come up with what that process would look like and who would be responsible for making sure that the checks were completed, that we had actual record in case we were ever questioned from a resident who had their deposit withheld from them. So right now we are recommending we'll do $100 fee for this. That should cover the admin time for the different departments to do what's needed to process their request or application.
So Chief Kip, when we typically block off the roads for these parties, do we use the city's blockades or the,
Usually the street department puts barricades out.
okay, have we come across situations where those have been damaged?
For those incidents in particular, not that I'm aware of, but we have damaged barricades because people try to drive around them and drive over them at times. So, I mean, it could occur, but
I just wonder, like, if we have, like, if they are able to provide their own barricades,
Mhm.
great, but if,
Should the ordinance specifically part of the.
okay,
Yeah, I would agree.
and I would recommend that too, but yeah.
I just wasn't sure if there was a way that we could put the fee and, but if it's already part of the ordinance, that it's gotta be city
Mhm.
barricades.
I'd be concerned about how they're blocking the road if they weren't.
Yes.
Yeah, they may use a car.
Okay, sounds good. So then it's gonna be $100. And then they won't get any refund, correct?
We just kept it as a flat rate right now. If council is interested in looking at the deposit, we would just need to have a little bit more discussion internally, come up with what that process would look like, because we would just have to be able to provide proof that we've gone out, someone's done the check, we have an actual record to support the decision to either issue someone's deposit back or to withhold that.
I think that's more work for people
Mhm.
involved,
Mhm.
other than just establishing a flat fee. Because then there's just a lot of gray areas.
They have a resident who's upset that they got their deposit back just as much as the party organizers not getting the deposit back.
There's-
Well, and you may want to consider too, just taking your cue from how it pans out doing it this way. If it looks like the $100, doing the $100 and we end up having a lot of damaged city equipment or a lot of calls for service or something. I mean, you can kind of take your cue from that and say, hey, maybe we need to revisit the fee and look at the other model. I mean, it's an ordinance, it can always be modified. And you can always modify your fee by resolution, which is even easier. So, I mean, but you can do it either way.
But I know Councilwoman Davis had her hand up.
As I was reading through the information, I saw the use of alcohol specifically as a infraction. Why isn't it more diverse in terms of alcohol or other substances or something like that?
In terms of like.
Why just
Someone using
alcohol?
marijuana in public or something like that?
Yes,
Because
yes.
using marijuana in public is already covered under another ordinance, it's already precluded, you can only use it privately.
Mhm.
We've already got that covered under. I want to say it's under chapter 50, I think, but it's a separate offense, and the way that we worded the block party ordinance is. When you have your block party, you're still required to comply with all the other city ordinances and you're required to comply with state law, so. If somebody's walking down the middle of a block party street smoking marijuana, they're in violation of a separate ordinance, so we can deal with it.
Do they know that about?
Well, those ordinances have been on the books since they changed the law in 2018, I think, or shortly thereafter.
We need to educate people. No, because just reading through the ordinance, it may be misconstrued in terms of. Oh, we can do this, it doesn't say that here.
And Mayor Pro Tem Jackson had her hand up.
Yes, I guess I kind of want to go on the flip side of that. I'm thinking that we should at least put a $50 deposit. I don't know how much your barricades or whatever it may be may cost. Then you have something better than nothing to get started off. And then it shows you really who wants to go by the rules to get what they want done. Because just giving, the $100, we do $150. Same thing we do with the parks.
Right.
And I believe we're still consistent, a little consistent anyway with what we're doing.
Councilwoman Reed?
Okay. I've never heard what is. Okay, Donovan lives in the house next to me. I'm having the black party. block party, but he does not want to have a block party, or be in that situation. He does not want people walking across his grass, whatever. So what do you do about that? Can I still say, I wanna have it, I'm gonna pay the $100 to have it and not in disregard?
Well, and it's outlined in the document, like, so you have to have,
51%.
yeah, if you're
So
with
51% of the neighbors.
I didn't.
Yes.
that's why there's like 2 pages on here. That's gonna give you a template of what somebody who would wanna host a block party would have to utilize to get those signatures. They have to have their signature, their name printed, their address, and the date that they agreed to have the block party. That's what it is.
You got your answer? Okay. Thank you. Okay, so $100 non-refundable fee to have a block party. I hear that we're saying this for administration fees or, you know, what goes into the behind the scenes, but previously we didn't have a fee at all. I know us as a city, we want to encourage, communal events, communal gathering, unifying neighborhoods, things like that. And outside of them bringing the person that's applying for the block party, that's filling out the application, saying that they're gonna be responsible and presenting the information that's necessary to, that's necessary per the new ordinance. I honestly don't see the reason why we even have a fee. If they need barricades, they should be able to rent the barricades. Deposit tied into the rental fee. But the reason I say that is because, I mean, it's a right to gather. It's literally a right to gather. And, you know, people wanting to gather in the community, I think that's something that we encourage. I do understand that there's costs associated to this. But like I said before, we've been doing this for free for the longest. Like, we're just now addressing this in 2023. I don't know. Anybody got any feedback for that?
Yeah. The feedback I would say, Attorney Hartness, when you digged into this for us, what did you find out as far as fees?
Different municipalities do it different ways. I've seen it where some municipalities will do a flat fee. I've seen it where some municipalities do it the other way, where they say, put down a deposit, you lose some of it by having the event, and then you get some of it back. And I've seen them do it a third way, where they'll do a fee, and then for the addition, they'll do like a flat fee for the event, and then for the additional things that you ask for, they'll add additional charges on top of that. So like, by way of example, $50 flat fee to have the event, but if you want to close the street and you want barricades, then they charge you for the barricades on top. If you want to have like paramedics standing by, there's an additional fee for that. So there's different ways. Every municipality is a little bit different, but you can do it any way that you want.
So I just ask that we consider that as well. It is a right of, you know, citizens here to gather, and getting those citizens to gather in a way that both informs the police and council that a gathering is going to take place. I don't know if we necessarily need to have $100 fee attached to that.
Councilman French?
When I read this, I don't see this as an inhibition of gathering. The difference is that we're asking people who are going to have a big party that requires the blocking of the street, which is a different sort of gathering, as being something that needs more oversight. I think that I would never want government to ever say, no, you can't gather. I kind of sympathize with the conversation so far in terms of how we do it. I think the flat fee is a good one, because it minimizes the amount of effort that people in offices have to do, right? So let's keep that to a minimum. If you do a deposit, you're creating a whole layer of administration, involving the finance department as well as the city manager and, and got, who else, right? If we're gonna mandate that they want to close off the street, I would much rather have city roadblocks instead of somebody's car or somebody's bicycles or whatever it is, because in case of an emergency, finding the guy with the keys to get the car out of the way, you can imagine how that goes. So I guess what I'm saying is I think we should, as recommended by Attorney Harkness, I say we give it a year. If we find that cost is prohibitive, if people start complaining to us about, oh, that I can't afford that, then we can revisit it. But I'd like to get something on the books just so we have a process so that our public safety and our city and our residents know that this is happening. And that if you want to have a block party or have a big party that requires more space than your personal property, then there's a process that we do. So if we lower that price to 75, that's fine. But I do want a fee because it's a vested, you're making an investment by organizing this party. You're taking some responsibility for the behavior of your party goers. And so that's why I would like the fee to be intact. The level of that is negotiable.
No, I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I thought during the first discussion of this, we talked about kind of doing a informal poll. Did that ever happen with some of the people who have had block parties like Maurice, or he's the only person I know?
Right.
So has anyone talked to people regarding maybe some of their concerns as well and the extra protection?
Not outside of what we were discussing here in council. Not to that granularity, no.
I was gonna say, I
About
think the $100 is pretty hefty. Because kind of like what Councilman French was saying, like whoever's organizing is putting in a lot of money probably into putting the event together, and they may. And kind of going with Attorney Harkness, we could always change it. So if we do see that we are incurring extra costs because of things that are happening during these block parties, then we can revisit and increase costs. But I think I would rather start lower. Because I think if we start off with $100, we're probably not gonna get too many folks being willing, and I just think they're gonna go rogue and go out on their own. I would prefer that we have it at a reasonable price where people are gonna be, okay, $50. I get the roadblocks, I got the approval of the city. Let's make it happen the right way instead of like, it's $100. Ain't nobody got $100 for this. Just do it on our own. And then we're gonna keep seeing these parties happen without city approval. At least that's my perception of how this would probably roll out if we keep $100. Attorney Harkness.
Councilman Jackson actually had her.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, without even doing the survey or going out, many people was very happy that we was doing something with closing the streets, putting the ordinance in. And back to my say, if you didn't want to go up to $50, I would stay with the 100 because it is an investment towards the city. And I don't believe you're gonna have to go down on it. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, well, so the good thing is, like I said, you're setting your fee by resolutions, whether you start low or you start high, or you start somewhere in between. If either Chief Kip or the manager tells you, hey, we're incurring
$100, yes.
issues where people can't afford it, or we're incurring issues where the city is incurring too many expenses for what we're charging. It's as simple as putting it on your agenda for your next meeting. You can raise it because it's a resolution. You can vote on it and change it like that. So if
Councilman French.
Just for context, what do we charge for the pavilion at the Victory Park?
Pretty sure if you're a resident, it's $50.
Same for,
Non-resident, I believe it's 75.
so same for Holland Park?
It's all the parks.
Yep. Yep.
And a deposit.
Is there a deposit?
Yes, it is.
But they also gotta clean up.
Yes,
This is
Right.
the street.
and it's a deposit. That's why I said that.
Okay.
deposit for the cleanup, correct? If
No,
they
it's a
don't
pot-
clean up
yes,
themselves.
is that they put a deposit on there automatically, and if you do not clean up, you do not get your deposit back.
Mhm.
So that's why I said, let's be consistent.
Right, but this isn't,
Well, that's
Being-
fine too, but I'm talking about his,
no, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the barriers and all those things.
I'm with, I'm with Councilman French. $50 sounds a lot better than 100 to me. Especially for a potluck style gathering that may take place in most of these communities.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Like daytime potluck style event. You mentioned Maurice's event. He typically does something strictly for the children, young children, $50.
I was going to, after the discussion, I think $50 is one more consistent. And, this is pretty detailed in terms of what is expected. So if we find that 50 doesn't work, they're not following the guidelines, they have to do all of this other stuff like going to their neighbor's house and getting 51% or 50% in agreement. I rather trust and start with 50, and if that doesn't work, then we can change it.
Anything else, Chief Kip?
Like, y'all could have left it alone a long time ago.
All right, so considering the time, I'm gonna go ahead and open it up to public comment. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
If there's anybody in the gallery that would like to stand and address council, you may do so at this time. You need to come forward, give us your name, address, and 3 minutes is yours.
The documents looks good.
All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So support.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned 6:52 PM. Don't go far. We're back at 7 PM.